Hello, welcome to the 4th devlog for my bullet hole dungeon crawler game Cataclysm, and since last time I've been adding a lot of new content to the game, including 14 new weapons, a new loot type called the Core, as well as some basic cores. But let's get straight into it. This is all the progress since the last devlog. Weapons in Cataclysm are half the game. They are your only way to get through the game because, well, I don't know, that's just how the game works. There are different types of weapons in the game, but for now we'll just focus on the common weapons. Common weapons are the foundation for all weapons in Cataclysm. Every weapon is either a common weapon or a variant of a common weapon, which makes them extremely important. With a low number of them, every weapon would seem very similar, and 2 is definitely a low number, which is why I added 7 more. Here they are. The pistol is a junk weapon inspired by a certain gun in Apex Legends. It's basically just a rifle, but it shoots faster and is also a primary weapon. It's undesirable due to it requiring you to click about 10 times per second in order for you to get as much damage out of the weapon as possible. Despite it being intended to be bad, it does pack quite a punch. However, personally, I'm probably not going to touch this weapon much for my mouse's sake. The SMG is a fast-firing, low-accuracy gun. It is characterized by long reload times and a small mag size. It actually has the longest reload time of all the primary weapons. It's super strong at close range, but at long ranges it can cause you to miss most of your shots. The burst pistol isn't that interesting. In fact, the only way I'm going to be able to extend this section to be long enough to show off the weapon in the background footage is by commenting on how boring it is. It literally just shoots 3 bullets very fast and you have to wait a bit. The pulse gun is a really cool weapon with a weird behavior that separates it from the rest of the common weapons. It shoots a projectile that explodes on impact where the size and damage of the explosion is controlled by how long you charge the gun up. I am actually considering changing it to be a weapon variant because of its behavior. It's also a primary weapon for some reason, so I think this weapon definitely needs to be thought out a bit more. It's still a really cool weapon though. Alright, now on to the secondary common weapons. The assault rifle is very similar to the SMG in that it's a fast firing, high damage per second weapon, but the assault rifle is a lot more accurate than the SMG, meaning it's in most cases better. The cannon is probably my personal favorite common weapon because of how different it is compared to the other weapons. It fires a large, slow-moving projectile with high damage and infinite piercing, which makes it really strong and on the verge of being overpowered. If it wasn't so risky to use because of the slow fire rate and reload time causing there to be long periods of time where you're not killing anything, it would be broken. Like, tell me this isn't overpowered. The rocket swarm is probably my second favorite common weapon. I really like these secondary weapons. It shoots a large mag of high damage seeking projectiles that target the nearest enemy. Is even more OP than the unnerfed cannon, and even though it has still been nerfed 3 times already, it's gone from 0.3m damage to 0.25m damage to 0.18m damage and still needs to be nerfed. I actually think this one might need to be completely redone. It's still a cool concept though. So what have we learned from this? Well, the weapons are extremely unbalanced, with some of them insanely overpowered and others completely useless, and the pulse gun doesn't fit in at all, and also means there's now 5 primary weapons and 4 secondary weapons. Should I remove it? Maybe. Let me know your thoughts in my Discord server, link in the description. Every common weapon can have a variant of it. Variant weapons are cooler and slightly stronger than common weapons, but are a lot rarer. They come in 2 types: legendary variant weapons, which are themed around a specific area and can only be found in said area, and chaos variant weapons, which are the coolest weapons. They are themed around chaos, which is a super strong substance in the lore, and are the only weapons with different colored projectiles and can be found in any area. The Hyper Revolver is a variant of the revolver and is the simplest chaos variant, so let's start with that. In fact, it's so simple, it's basically the burst pistol but even simpler. It shoots 6 projectiles very fast and then reloads. Yep. The Devastator Cannon, which is a variant of, you guessed it, the cannon, is my favorite weapon in the entire game so far. I mean, look at this, is this not satisfying? In case you haven't worked out what it does yet, it shoots a large cannonball with 4 piercing, which splits into 8 infinite piercing projectiles when it breaks. I love this weapon. The missile launcher is a pretty cool weapon that's basically just a cross between the pulse gun and the rocket swarm. You shoot a large homing projectile that explodes on impact. It's pretty cool, not great in practice, but still a cool weapon. The Chaos Blaster is definitely the laziest weapon. I made this as the last Chaos variant, so at this point I was running low on cool epic ideas and twists, so the weapon is really boring. So basically it just shoots a projectile, and that projectile splits into 3 projectiles when it hits something, and that's it. Alright, now onto the legendary weapons. The Wildfire is a legendary variant of the pistol and is themed around the forest. Not the Crimson Forest, just like general forest. It shoots projectiles that have a small chance of lighting enemies on fire, and just like the pistol is pretty bad. I would like to buff this weapon in terms of damage because otherwise you would just not use it. Bio Rifle is a very cool weapon. It is a variant of the rifle, and like the Wildfire, it also applies a debuff to enemies. Except instead of setting them on fire, it poisons them, increasing their damage multiplier, which means they take about 50% more damage while poisoned. This weapon is very good when used with other weapons that have high DPS, so you can switch to the bio rifle, shoot some things, and then go back to your primary and deal 50% more damage. Remember the flower power? Well, it's back. It functions exactly the same way as before, which is just to shoot bullets very fast, but the bullets don't really go anywhere. This weapon also has no reload, which definitely makes it overpowered. I might have to add reloading. So after the weapons, the next major thing I did was to add the inventory system. This is just half implemented at the moment, but it allows you to switch weapons, see what weapons you have and their power levels, and read weapon descriptions. Also, if you spam I, you get many different weapons. The UI was fun to design, I'm relatively happy with it. I like the colors for the most part. There are some visual glitches with the UI color system that I'll get around to fixing later probably. Anyway, so the last thing I did was to remove this from the game because I don't actually need this in the game yet. Cores are what armor is called in Cataclysm. A core can give you increased max health depending on its power level, and also has attributes that affects your stats. At the moment, there are only 2 cores other than the base core, the glass core and the heavy core. The balancing is definitely not final, but the effects are mostly final. The glass core is a pretty cool core for sweaty tryhard players and speedrunners. It gives the player boosted movement speed and increased damage at the cost of some health. This is really useful if you tend to not get hit much, but terrible for lower skill players. The heavy core is the exact opposite of the glass core. Instead of giving you increased movement speed, it increases your health at the cost of movement speed. However, the heavy core has an additional benefit. It makes you heavy. What this means is that you can actually bump into enemies and push them around. It's not the best attribute, but it can come in handy sometimes when you're cornered. Update 2.1 of Cataclysm is about actually adding the first area into the game, as well as a lot of content to go along with it, and so far this is the checklist for the update. So that means art stuff next. Here's what this means. Finalizing an art style. Previously the game looked like this. The art style was only partially consistent, but also terrible. Like, look at this rock. Why does it look like that? So I'm going to be making an art style that actually looks good and doesn't take that long to make assets with. I don't want it to be extremely detailed because I don't want to spend hours on a single art asset, so I'm going for a simple hand-drawn style. Hand-drawn because I have a drawing tablet and I want to use it. Designing the look of the Crimson Forest. After we have an art style, I'll be trying to get a good-looking Crimson Forest. I'll be recreating this Infinite scene but with the Crimson Forest art. So this also includes making the sprites for the Crimson Forest. Actually spriting everything. After the art style has been finalized and I've had some practice making sprites with it, it'll be time to sprite some things like some of the weapons, not all of them, the 2 enemies that are currently in the game, some random miscellaneous things, and the player. This will be the first time that Cataclysm has actually had a player sprite. Yep, I just put it off for 2 years, but it's finally time. And after that, we'll be back here again for devlog 5. If you enjoyed the video, maybe consider subscribing so that you don't miss the next devlog. Also, we hit 50 subscribers on Monday, that's insane. Weekly uploads have been paying off. Also, if you would like to play the game, you no longer need to fill out a form. Just head over to the itch.io page, link in the description, and download it. If you would like to see some of the older devlogs from the start of development, check that out here. Otherwise, thanks for watching.